Now I'd like to talk about the importance of communications in the program at all levels. Within the International Space Station agreements, there's a forum called the Multilateral Coordination Board. This board is at the headquarters level for NASA at the Mission Directorate with all of the associate administrators' counterparts. There's also technical fora at lower levels. But this management level forum is really important because it helps you understand the partner's environment. So not only does it talk about programmatic and policy activities, but it's a chance to get insight into what's happening back home with each of the partners. Are they having difficulties with their budget? Is there an issue with their politicians complaining that operations cost too much, or the priorities are changing? Any of those kinds of things. Elections, a new government coming in. Does the new government favor space or not? What impact might that have? So those communications are really important to understand what's going on and to be an early warning mechanism. There were a number of times in the Multilateral Coordination Board where a partner would ask for assistance from the other partners. Could you please talk to our government about how important this program is to you to help us sustain our support for this program collectively? When we had a new issue come up, how do we deal with another user of the station? Let's say Russia wanted to bring in a guest astronaut from somewhere else. How did we deal with that? What mechanisms were needed? Establish a working group to go off and study the legal ramifications. That mechanism was used for a lot of those things that were new issues that came up or for environmental awareness. Another thing that we established early in the program was something called the Heads of Agency meeting. Now, this is interesting because there's nothing in the agreements that recognizes this forum. It wasn't planned, but it became obvious that at some point it was really important for the NASA administrator to be able to talk directly with his counterparts. And it showed the importance of the program to the other partners, or those other partners needed that level discussion and attention themselves. And so the Heads of Agency meeting became a very regular forum for communication, and that was really important for sustaining the support and for getting insight into where there might be top-level policy issues. And another level of communication that's really important is having insight at the technical level into one another's activities. And so we built into the program from the beginning that we would have partner representatives at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, and we would have U.S. technical representatives in the partner nations. This is really important because if you have a partner that is not so familiar with NASA, it's a good learning experience. It wasn't so important with Canada, Europe, and Japan because they had worked with NASA on the shuttle program and understood our processes pretty well, and we knew them fairly well from programs. But for Russia, it was important for them to send Russians to Houston to learn how we do things on the shuttle program and how we were planning for the International Space Station. For NASA, it was important to get insight into Russia because they did things differently with their long-term human spaceflight program. We needed to learn from one another, and we needed to learn to understand how we think, how we operate, and what the expectations were. So those firsthand observations were really important at a technical level for the programs to operate more smoothly, to get insight, early warning if there might be some kind of a problem, or even just to explain something where there was a simple miscommunication. It's much easier to do face-to-face if you have someone on the scene. So that level of communications is just as important as the top-level policy discussions. So a lesson for exploration is to ensure you've built in good communications mechanisms. You can use the same forum as was developed for station. It might be able to evolve and grow. It may be better to create a new one so that you're starting fresh, especially if you have a different set of partners. But regardless, you need to have a good forum of communication. You need it at multiple levels. ability to have insight into what's happening with each of the partners respectively, not only on your collaborative activities, but what's happening domestically so that you can help to plan for potential problems, smooth over issues, and ensure that you have a really good dialogue and understanding.